become masters of nature. So because of this search, we found some secrets of nature and matter. When we found the secrets of nature and matter, we thought that we are the masters of nature, become masters of the world. Because we are the masters of certain powers of nature, we think that we are the masters of the world. Then we are becoming not masters of nature, but the destroyers of nature and the world. Surely, not for being destroyed, the world came into existence. Why the world came into existence? Not to be destroyed by anybody. Surely, not for dying, man came into the existence. This is, when we are here, not for dying, what is that we have to do when we are in the life? To find the purpose of the creation and the purpose of man and the origin from which they came into existence, man started his search in two directions. You know the purpose of creation and the relation between creation and the man and the God. I think this was touched yesterday. There's somebody touched yesterday. But I am telling today, they are searching in all these directions. They are spiritualism and materialism. Mainly, there are two directions in which the people are searching for the truth. They are spiritualism and materialism. The people are laboring to find the ultimate truth or ultimate secret of creation. The spiritualists as well as the materialists, they are trying to find the secret of creation or the secret of nature. Then what is that they are getting? Actually, spirituality has to do its search in physically unseen or invisible realms. Yes, spirituality has to work. Where is its field of work? Its field of work is invisible. We can't see with our eyes. We can't hear its voices. So, but we are searching. How? By going inside, we are searching the spiritual field, spiritual truth. We want to find the spiritual truth or invisible realms. Everything is coming from the invisible realms and materializing itself in the physical arena. See, everything is coming from the invisible realms only. But here one example is there. Where from the sound is coming? From the silence, the sound is coming. So in that way, which is not there, which appears that it is not there previously, but is appearing to us by the time before, because the spiritual person is able to search for it in the invisible realms of his own being. So he is able to find out what is going to coming, what is going to happen in the future, even before the materialist find out it is there. So that is how the spiritual person knows things which are going to come into the creation beforehand than the materialist. That is the beauty of it. That indicates whatever comes into the physical is already taking a sort of shape in the above invisible regions. Are you able to follow me, please? Yes. So, whatever is coming into the material field, objectifying itself, is coming from the invisible worlds. So, here I can give you one example to make it myself clear. So, when we want to construct a house, what is that we are doing? Where it is taking shape first? It is taking shape in the mental level. In the mind, it takes a shape. That is the invisible world. In the invisible world, it is taking a shape. Then afterwards, we are trying to put it on the paper. That means we are giving a subtle shape on the paper. Then afterwards, we will give it to the material shape. That means whatever is materializing finally is taking a kind of shape in the invisible world first. That is, are able to see into the invisible regions. That means the spiritual people are able to see into the invisible regions. You can see what is going to happen. They can see what is going to happen beforehand and get prepared to receive it. Because of that capacity of spiritual person, because of that capacity, a spiritual person always go ahead and see and guide and caution the creation, caution the mankind. so this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. This is the situation. Whereas the materialist only sees what is actually taking shape in front of him. The materialist sees what is in front of him, what is visible to his eyes. He is seeing that, and he is searching in that the truth. The truth. The inventions and the discoveries of the materialists are forcing. What is happening because of this search? He is finding some secrets of nature, and he is finding some instruments also. He is finding some technology also to raise the comforts, to raise the standard of living of the people. Then the inventions and the discoveries of the materialists are forcing human mind to widen itself to understand the results of its findings. Because of these findings of the materialists, it is forcing the normal mind also to expand, to widen itself, to understand and utilize those benefits because of their research. Those benefits we have to find out, we have to receive, and we have to enjoy with those benefits. That's why we are forced to, the common man also is forced to understand. Nowadays you see, when I am younger, last 10 years back I don't know about the cell phone. Because I know, but I don't have the cell phone. Now I am forced to have it. Because to have it, when I have to have it, I have to know, I have to expand my mind to know all the secrets of the gadgets. So this is how human mind is developing. This is how that materialist is forcing the human mind to sharpen itself or to widen itself. That is the benefit of the materialist inventions, results of its findings. For this challenge, I think the past philosophies or the forces which are at play in the physical world are not capable of guiding in a right direction which the modern mind demands, or changing the human mind. But human mind, the modern mind is not satisfied with this. What more it is demanding. What is the direction in which I have to proceed? It is demanding. The modern mind is demanding. He is not satisfied with these comforts because that they are giving certain problems to the human mind. Then he wants certain things which makes it happy and which makes it more peaceful. But in the eyes of Sri Aurobindo, man is a transitional being. He is not static. He will not stop at any. He will not stop his evolution at any particular stage. He has reached the human level. He has reached the mental level. But he will not satisfy. And not only he, what is he to satisfy or not to satisfy? But because in him something is there which is forcing him to go forward, to go always on the move. That is how we have to run along with the force which is coming from inside. We are impelled to go forward. For this challenge, I think the past philosophies or the forces which are at play in the physical world are not capable of guiding in a right direction which the modern mind demands, or changing the human mind. So, human mind, it has to change the human mind. Otherwise, if the same mind is continuous, the same problems will continue. Unless you change the mind, unless you change the consciousness, mental consciousness, unless you change the understanding of your capacity, so then only you will find the right results, the right direction in which you have to proceed. But in the eyes of Sri Aurobindo, Aurobindo says, man is a transitional being. Man is not the final stage of human evolution. Mind is not the final stage of human consciousness to develop in the evolution. So he has to go forward. So that means that is why Sri Aurobindo is telling man is a transitional being. And Mother says that always something new is being added to creation. Mother is telling that something new is being added to the creation. Always. Every moment something new is being added to the creation. That means something new is coming means something old has to disappear from the creation. But we, the people, are not allowing the old to disappear. So that is why we are not able to receive the new elements which are coming into the creation. So that here we are suffering. The clash between the coming and outgoing, incoming and outgoing is not balanced. If it is not balanced, that will transform itself into suffering of the human being. Mother says that always something new is being added to the creation. When we focus our attention on the words transitional and something new. When we concentrate a little bit, we show a little bit attention, more attention on the transitional and something new, we can understand that the nature is not static and any stage of evolution is not a final stage. Any stage of evolution is not a final stage. What is the final stage? There is no final stage because the infinite God is infinite. So his evolution is manifestation also must be infinite. There is no final stage. This is, and after you receiving the moksha, after you enter into the moksha, that is final. Like that, in integral yoga, there is no final stage. Go on proceeding. Because God is infinite, your journey also must be infinite. When we focus our attention on the words transitional and something new, we can understand that the nature is not static and any stage of evolution is not a final stage. The present day world situation, now we are coming to the right point. The present day world situation is forcing the humanity from many directions to go beyond the present state. We are being forced by the evolution, we are being forced by the present day world situation to exceed our human limitations. Otherwise, if you remain in the same levels of consciousness, same limitations, same ideas or same ideals, there is no escape for you from this troublesome world. To go beyond the present state, which appears as final stage. If he cannot go beyond the present stage, he has to suffer as long as the same state of consciousness continues. So, man has to exceed his limitations. Man has to exceed the present state of consciousness. Otherwise, there is no solution for his problems. That is the present world situation. Where there is thickest darkness, we need the brightest light to shatter it. And the thickest darkness is there. When you are surrounded by thickest darkness, then what happens? We need the brightest light to shatter the darkness. To shatter the darkness. We need brightest light to shatter it. Present state of humanity is in the thickest darkness. Present state of humanity is in the thickest darkness. What is that we have to do? What the spirituality of the world is not the modern mind. Now,
Sorry, sir.
after the modern mind,
Rajesh sir, please mute others. Rajesh sir, please mute others. There is disturbance.
Okay, ma'am.
no need.
Sir, continue చేయండి. Okay.
Hello. Hello.
Continue చేయండి, sir.
Hello. But spirituality of the world is not able to influence the modern mind. Now, if you teach them world philosophy and the world spirituality, it is not giving solutions to all the problems we are facing now. No, we need something new in the spirituality also. Now, what we have achieved already is not complete. So there is something else which has to come into the existence, which has to come into the play of the creation. That is what we need now. But spirituality of the world is not able to influence the modern mind because it concentrated on the individual release from the world. It is not able to change the world situation. It may change the situation of the individual. That is what the world philosophies can do maximum. So now, because the philosophers and the spiritualism of past have shown the way for individual escape from the world, in that way, maybe a few individuals released from the terrestrial bonds. So, Past philosophy has shown a way for the individual to escape from the bonds of the terrestrial world. But what about the society? What about the humankind at large? No, they are remaining in the same condition. They are not going to be benefited by the individual release. So what we need is a collective escape, a collective happiness is required. A collective happiness, collective escape from the bondage is the present day requirement. But now man is questioning. Now modern man is questioning. What is the use of individual release? He is questioning. He is asking us, how shall a few escape release the world? How shall a few escape the release world? Yes, there are people who escaped the bondages of the terrestrial world. But how shall a few escape release the world? The human mass lingers beneath the yoke. Escape, however high, redeems not life. Escape cannot uplift the abandoned race or bring it to it victory and the reign of God. A greater power must come, a larger light. So whatever light is available is not sufficient. Whatever power is available at the present stage of evolution is not sufficient. So a greater light has to come, a greater power has to come. That is what Aurobindo says. But the modern man is asking, and he is in the old philosophies. Modern man is not accepting the solutions of the old philosophies. This is the demand of modern man, modern race of mankind. Now, a new light already started to spread itself to all the corners of human life, and we are able to witness abnormal development in all the aspects of human life. Now, we are able to see the abnormal development in all the corners of human life, not only in spirituality, but in materialism also, but in many directions, in medicine, in science, in technology, in everything, we see abnormal developments. Why? How? What is the cause for all these abnormal developments? Because a new power has come down with the labor of Mother and Aurobindo, with the labor of the twin avatars. A new force has come down onto the earth. Now it is working in all the directions. But the opposite also, that is self-destruction in all the fields also, we find is on the increase. Not only the development on all sides, but destruction also on all sides is there. Why this is happening means there is only one reason for that, is on the increase. This itself is a proof that to show that the new light and force are at work. That itself is the proof that the new light is working. Because this destruction also is necessary for the new light to come down, to be acceptable, to be accepted by the existing conditions. Yes, some destruction also will be there. And whatever is to be eliminated is coming out from its hideout. Now, secretly, they are hiding at some place all the destructive forces. When this new light is spreading, these destructive forces were coming out from their holes to face the light, to stop the light, to oppose the light. But the light will destroy them. So whatever is like that, whatever is against the light, against the dark, against the divine power, they are coming out, and the divine power is destroying them. That is what is happening now. So, for the present world, new definitions for the old philosophical terms are required. So now what we require is this. Now, old definitions of old philosophy is not at all sufficient. So we have to have new definitions, new meanings for the old terms. So that they were provided by Mother and Aurobindo. That is the greatness of them. They accept all the things as it is, but they will give a different meaning to that. See how some lines, some terms of those old philosophical terms are required, which so now a new meaning old meanings, in the place of old meanings, new meanings we require. Then, and a new goal which makes humanity to be in the light. New goal. So we need not run away from the light. And a new goal which makes humanity to be in the light. And always, and Mother and Sri Aurobindo says, just a minute, please. So now a new power, a new light has descended onto the earth, and it is giving the solutions for all the human problems. So we will see some of the definitions given by Mother and Sri Aurobindo to the old terms of philosophy. A new goal which makes humanity to be in the light and always progressing. Now the goal is different. Previously, the goal is to escape into the Jivan Mukta state, escape into the Moksha state, escape into the Nirvana state. But not, that goal is not sufficient. That is not the goal. Progressing towards perfection with an Ananda is required. And new goal which makes humanity to be in the light and always progressing towards perfection. That is our goal, always progressing towards perfection in Ananda, not with suffering we are moving towards our goal. In fact, it is the real purpose of creation and nature. That is the real purpose of creation and nature, to move always forward towards perfection, towards the divine, towards the absolute Ananda. This was revealed to us by Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. This is the new goal revealed to us by the Mother and Sri Aurobindo. That is, now Sri Aurobindo and the Mother are not denying or neglecting or annulling any faculties or powers of nature. This is the greatness of them. They are not denying anything, they are accepting. But they are giving a new direction, new meaning, new consciousness. They are pushing into the words a new consciousness. So that is what we require nowadays. Sri Aurobindo and the Mother are not denying or neglecting or annulling any faculties or powers of nature. Moreover, they are accepting them to bring change in them. What they want is let them there. All the faculties are required, but a different change, has to come in that material, or in that in that essence. There must be some change, truth, or divine, or absolute perfection in this terrestrial world. They are basing their teachings on the spiritual achievements of our Vedic rishis and Upanishadic seers. They are basing their teachings. They are not neglecting. They are not denying Vedas. They are not denying Upanishads. But they are using them as a basis, as a foundation for their teachings. And he says, now beautiful words they will tell us. So, the past, the terrestrial world. They are basing their teachings on the spiritual achievements of our Vedic rishis and Upanishadic seers. At one place, Sri Aurobindo said, the past is our foundation, and the present is our field of work, and the future is our goal. See, he is telling that the past is our foundation. We are not denying Vedic rishis' achievements and Upanishadic seers' achievements. We are not denying them. We need a past. Sorry.
సార్ ప్లీజ్ అన్మ్యూట్ యువర్ సెల్ఫ్. మైక్ ఆన్ చేసుకోండి సార్. మైక్ ఆన్ చేసుకోండి.
Okay?
ఓకే సార్. ఓకే.
Sorry for the disturbance. And at other place, Sri Aurobindo said that we do not belong to the past dawns, but we belong to the future noons. And the mother says that Sri Aurobindo came to tell us it is not necessary to leave the earth to find the truth. Please be careful to hear this. This is a wonderful statement. We do not belong to the past dawns, but we belong to the future noons. And the mother says that Sri Aurobindo came to tell us it is not necessary to leave the earth to find the truth. It is not necessary to leave life to find one's soul. It is not necessary to give up the world or have limited beliefs in order to enter into relation with the divine. So we need not leave anything. We did not discard anything, but we keep everything with us, but in a different consciousness for a different purpose. The divine is everywhere, in everything. And if he is hidden, it is because we do not take trouble to rediscover him. Because we do not take trouble to rediscover him, so he is hidden. He appears to be hidden. But if you are ready to take trouble, he is ready. He is in front of you. He appears to you. There is no secret of God because he appears. But you have to work for it. For anything you have to work for it. Otherwise, you will not get the result. So if you want to see the divine, you work for the divine. You search for the divine. You take the trouble to find out him. Then you will find him. The present day humanity breaking the walls on all sides, which are the cause of his limitations. Present day humanity is not accepting the limitations of human being. No, it wants to break the walls which are limiting his activity, which are limiting his thinking, which are limiting his ideals. So he wants to break out the walls on all sides. In this critical juncture, we will get the right guidance and proper light and power to walk on the new route pointed out on the way laid by Sri Aurobindo and the mother. They have given us a new route. They have given the humanity. They have not only to humanity, but in general, for the whole nature, in what direction he has to travel, they have given that route. And they have laid the track on which the nature itself, the whole evolution has to move. That is the greatness of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. They are not giving any route or anything for the individual. The whole nature, they are working for the whole nature. They are working for the entire creation in a collective way. Now let us see some of his new definitions for our old philosophical terms. Let us see some definitions, some meanings of the old philosophical terms. First, let us see what is spirituality. Now, but for man to become divine in consciousness and act and to live inwardly and outwardly, the divine life is meant by spirituality. Inwardly and outwardly. There is no difference between inner life and outer life. Both the lives, that means inner life and outer life must be on the guidelines which leads us towards our spirit. Present day religious functions are being dubbed as spirituality. Now everything, whatever is happening in the religious activity also, they are dubbing it as spirituality. That is not spirituality, that is religiosity. There is a difference between spirituality and religiosity, but it may lead to spirituality afterwards. Spirituality is not a high intellectuality. Now he is explaining what is spirituality a little more. Spirituality is not a high intellectuality, not idealism, not an ethical term of mind and exalted emotional fervor, not even a compound of all these excellent things. Spirituality is, in its essence, an awakening to the inner reality of our being. There is an inner reality of our being. Inside, if you are able to search for that, now you are entering into spirituality. Being to a spirit, of our being, reality of our being, to a spirit, self, soul, which is other than our mind, life, and body. The spirit in us, the soul in us, that is different something, but it is not connected with the mind, life, and body. It is different thing, life and body. An inner aspiration to know, to feel, to be that, to enter into contact with the greater reality beyond and pervading the universe. So there is a greater reality beyond pervading the universe. There is greater reality. When we are trying to find out that one, you will be in spirituality and pervading the universe, which inhabits also our own being. It inhabits our own being also to be in communion with it and union with it. And turning, a conversion, a transformation of our whole being as a result of the aspiration, the constant, the contact, the union, a growth or waking into a new becoming or new being, a new self, a new material, a new nature. That is spirituality. Not, not to find out here and there, not to worship, not to these things, they are not spirituality. They may lead to the spirituality afterwards. But what spirituality means, we have to find out spirit, and we have to find out the qualities of the spirit, and we have to live in the qualities of the spirit. On the spirit is there in you. That is called in you, it may be called as soul. In you, it may be called as a soul, spirit, or something else. Self also. All these things points out the other reality which is not mind, life, and body. There is something else which is beyond the creation also, and at the same time it is pervading the whole creation also. That is spirituality. The remaining things below that is not spirituality. It may be something else. Then we will come to the yoga. Now we are able to understand what is spirituality. Then we are coming to the yoga. What is meant by yoga? In the passage of the human thinking animal towards the God consciousness. When we want to pass from the animal consciousness to the God's consciousness, that passage is known as yoga. Consciousness from which he has descended. He has descended from the higher consciousness. Again, he want to travel to reach that higher consciousness. This passage, the way of living through this passage is called yoga. Yoga is the exchange of egoistic for a universal or cosmic consciousness lifted towards or informed by the supracosmic transcendent, unnameable, who is the source and support of all things. He is the source and support of all things. To reach that place, what we are doing, what we are practicing, in what way we are living is called the yoga. This is all called the yoga. But nowadays, even some physical exercises are propagated as yoga. These are the exercises, but not the yoga. Yoga is something different. It connected with the life. It connected with the actual practice of life, in which way we are trying to move towards the divine, to unite with the divine. That is the yoga. Ignorance. Now we will come to the ignorance. What is meant by ignorance? Ignorance means avidya, ajnana. That's what we say. But here Sri Aurobindo says, is only a portion of the world nature. Ignorance is a portion of the world nature. You can't deny it. It will be there. It is a portion of the world nature itself. It is in its higher origin a self-limiting knowledge. Don't know how much clear definition he has given. It is a self-limiting knowledge. That is ignorance. What is ignorance? Self-limiting. That means, I will tell you one thing. We are having so much of knowledge. But when we are dealing with a small child, we are not giving all the knowledge to the child. We are limiting the knowledge. We are limiting our knowledge, and we are coming down to the level of the child and giving small hints of knowledge. This is called self-limitation. In the same way, the knowledge with the capital K, the knowledge is limiting itself to come down to the level of the human consciousness. Then it is becoming the ignorance. This is the wonderful explanation of the ignorance. It is its lower origin, a self-limiting knowledge, and even in its lower origin, its emergence out of the sheer material inconscience, it is a suppressed consciousness. When it is coming up from the inconscience is suppressing the knowledge to come out. That stage also is called ignorance. That what Sri Aurobindo says, inconscience. It is a suppressed consciousness laboring to recover itself, manifest knowledge, which is its true character as a foundation of existence. It's a true character. That means from the inconscience, something the superconscious is trying to raise, but the inconscious is suppressing it, not to completely open to the higher consciousness. It is suppressing it. But even though it is suppressing, it is trying to come out with so much great difficulty as a base to the coming creation. Then we will come to it is a state of seeking for knowledge. In one sentence, this can be done. It is a state of seeking knowledge. Ignorance is a state which is seeking for knowledge. Now we come to the point, sin. Sin consists not at all in the outward deed. See how definition is wonderful definitions really. Sin consists not at all in the outward deed, but in an impure reaction of the personal will. It is sin consists in the impure reaction of the personal will, that not in the deed itself. Personal will, mind and heart which accompanies it or causes it. That which accompanies that action is called the sin. But not the action itself is not sin. Then now he is coming to the evil. What is meant by evil? Grief, pain, suffering, error, falsehood, ignorance, weakness, wickedness, incapacity, non-doing of what should be done and wrongdoing, deviation of will, denial of will, egoism, limitation, division from other beings with whom we should be at one. All that makes up the effective figure of what we call evil. All these weaknesses called evil. See, this is another explanation for evil. Or facts of the world consciousness. These are all facts of the world consciousness. They are part of the world consciousness. That is why unrealities, although they are facts whose complete sense or true value is not that which we assign to them in our ignorance. But actually, all these things are not really those things. But we are assigning in our ignorance these qualities to that. But these are all part of the universal consciousness. They are all portions of the universal consciousness. That means when somebody is doing something, that means grief, pain, suffering. When somebody is doing something wrong, if it happens to be a painful thing to you or it induces grief in you, then what we have to think, this is coming from the outward nature. This is coming from the outside world. Then the reaction in me is like this. Then if I am able to rise above this reaction, then there will not be any suffering and grief. That means in this present stage, I am feeling this. But if I raise in my consciousness, I don't feel this. That is the truth behind that. Which we have seen. Next comes the pain. Bhava, pain. See how wonderfully he says here in Savitri. Pain is the hammer of the gods to break a dead resistance in a mortal's heart. Pain is the hammer of the gods. They are breaking the dead resistance in the mortal's heart. Otherwise, if they don't break the mortal's heart, if they don't break the dead resistance, it will be there always like that. It will not grow, it will not develop, it will not raise, it will not be activated to go beyond that state. So that's why it is the hammer of the gods to break a dead resistance in the mortal's heart. Pain and pleasure are only the nervous reaction to the external world touches. That is a nervous reaction to the external world touches. Pain and pleasure, both are the same. Now we come to the another point, death. Death is a big hurdle in the evolution of the human being. Death is a mortal state of matter with mind and life involved. Death is a mortal state of matter. Matter is there. It is the mortal state of matter is death. Death is a gift to lash us towards immortality, toward our deathless state. Death is a gift to lash us towards our deathless state. Then we come to the consciousness. Most of the people we are using consciousness. Very frequently we hear, when we come to Sri Aurobindo, the word definitely comes consciousness. What is it, consciousness? Consciousness means the essence of consciousness is the power to be aware of itself and its objects. And in its true nature, its power must be direct, self-fulfilled and complete. If it is in us indirect, incomplete, unfulfilled in its workings, dependent on constructed instruments, it is because consciousness here is emerging from an original wailing inconscience. Inconscience is the wheel on that. That's why it is coming out from the consciousness, is emerging from the behind the wheel, and is yet burdened and enveloped with the first nescience proper to the inconscient. The proper nescience is proper to the inconscient. These are the higher words, but normally we don't try to understand them very clearly. Otherwise, if you are not able to understand what is inconscient, what is nescience, what is ignorance, if you are not able to understand these terms clearly, we are not able to understand really what Sri Aurobindo meant for the change of consciousness. Divine will and no other to live for the divine and not for the ego. Nescience proper to the inconscient. Nescience is proper to the inconscient. So we have to go beyond that, means we have to develop in our consciousness. What is consciousness? Consciousness means the awareness of itself, the awareness of the objects which it sees. This is the awareness only. Then comes the surrender. Surrender is the most of the human minds shows their aversion to surrender, because they think that surrender means they are losing their self-respect. That is the main problem. That is not the meaning of it. Surrender is giving oneself to the divine, not to any individual, not to any human being, to divine. To give everything, that means surrender means to give everything one is or has to the divine. What one is and what one has, both he has to give to the divine, and regard nothing as one's own. To obey only the divine will and no other, to live for the divine and not for the ego, is the surrender, meaning of the surrender. Now, what I mean by surrender is the inner surrender of the mind and vital also. Surrender means they have to surrender to the higher consciousness, to the truth behind that. So, this is actually the surrender. So, I think the time will permit us or not. Can I continue some more time, please?
Yes, sir. You can continue for 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes.
Maybe it may take 15 minutes more.
Yes.
Okay. What I mean by surrender, Sri Aurobindo is telling, what I mean by surrender is the inner surrender of the mind and vital. Inner surrender of the mind and vital. So, this is the surrender. Surrender means the lower nature, we are surrendering to the higher nature. Lower consciousness, we are surrendering to the higher consciousness. If you don't surrender the lower to the higher will not come down into the lower. So that is why we have to surrender the lower. We have to surrender our ignorance to our Guru. Then only he will give the light and knowledge to us. If you don't surrender everything, he will not give. Even if he gives, it won't enter into you. If you don't surrender, that is the problem. What I mean by surrender? New terms introduced by Aurobindo, not only these definitions for the old spiritual terms, he has introduced two other new words. They are supermind and transformation. These are the two terms included into the spirituality by the Sri Aurobindo. They are supermind and transformation. And he has highlighted the role of consciousness. So, Sri Aurobindo's teachings mainly depend upon the change of consciousness. Change of consciousness, consciousness, consciousness. Everywhere he gets consciousness, and mother also consciousness. Now we are telling that we are doing the mother's work. What is the mother's work actually? Change of consciousness is the mother's work. Not doing some physical work. That physical work also must be able to help you to change your consciousness. Whatever you do externally also, try to get yourself changed in your consciousness through that work. You have to take that work as an opportunity to develop yourself into the higher consciousness. Then only it becomes the work of the mother. That means the result of the worker must be the change of consciousness. In that way, we have to do the mother's work. That means we have to change our consciousness. We have to concentrate to change our consciousness more and more and more. And finally, one day, that is the only business of ours. Everywhere every opportunity we will grab to change our consciousness. That must be our aim. Transformation, supermind, is the truth consciousness. It is the mind of Satchidananda. Supermind is the truth consciousness. It is the mind of Satchidananda. Supermind is the divine gnosis. He says, he is the divine gnosis, the wisdom, power, light, bliss of God. Wisdom, power, light, and bliss of God. So what is supermind? All the four are there in the supermind. Wisdom, power, light, bliss of God is the supermind. And transformation means that the higher consciousness or nature is brought down into the mind, vital, and body, and it takes the place of the lower nature. That means the transformation, the lower nature. We bring the higher nature into the lower nature, and the lower nature will rise into the higher nature. That is the transformation. That means the lower nature is transforming itself. Consciousness, I use the transformation in a special sense. Sri Aurobindo is explaining. I use the consciousness in a special sense. A change of consciousness, radical and complete, and of a certain specific kind, which is so conceived as to bring about a strong and assured and higher kind and of a larger sweep and completeness than what took place when a mentalized being first appeared in a vital and materialized animal world. So he is giving here an example also. First, animal mind is there. How animal mind is risen to the human mind. When the human mind descended, the animal mind surrendered itself and changed itself. That is an irrevocable change. That is the meaning of real transformation. That means, again, sometimes we are also raising to the higher consciousness at sometimes, but we are coming back again to the normal consciousness. That is not the transformation. That is not the change. But when you rise to the higher consciousness, if you remain there itself, see here I will give one example. Sri Aurobindo, Alipur jail, he has the universal consciousness. Everywhere he saw the divine. That is the universal consciousness. But he has not come down to the normal consciousness. He has always lived in that universal consciousness. But we don't know that. He has always lived in the universal consciousness. That is why when Sri Krishna entered into him, there is no change in him. Because the mother says at one place, his new old formation has joined with the new formation. That is the way it is an irrevocable change of consciousness. That is the Means once we raise to the higher consciousness, we must remain there itself. Then only it can be called a real transformation. This integral yoga, for this change, than a higher kind and a larger sweep and completeness than what took place, when larger took place, when something changed, some transformation has taken place at the time of animal mind rising to the human mind. But now something larger than this, with a higher sweep will take place now. That means supramental consciousness is in a vaster scale than that transformation. He has given innumerable explanations which are appeal to the modern mind. Finally, he has given to present-day humanity a new integral yoga. I will try to quote his explanation in this regard. We are coming to close. The integral yoga is that which having found and possess it, transcendent. Which having found the transcendent and possess the transcendent, can return to descend as well as ascend the great stair of existence. Whenever it wants to rise, it can rise. Whenever it wants to come down, it can come down. That is the integral yoga, the aim of the integral yoga. Integral yoga. In integral yoga, the ascent is a means to the descent. Ascent is not the goal, but for all other yogas, the ascent is the goal. The rising into the higher levels, rising into to the divine and finding the divine is the last stage. But here in this integral yoga, it is not that we are raising to the higher consciousness or we are finding the divine to bring down the divine to the lower consciousness, to bring down the higher consciousness into the lower consciousness and to change the life and mind on the earth. An integral yoga includes vital and indispensable elements in the total and ultimate aim of conversion of the whole being into a higher spiritual consciousness and a larger divine existence. Our parts of will, action, our parts of knowledge, our thinking being, our emotional being, our being of life, all ourself and nature must seek the divine. The whole being must turn towards the divine, that is the integral yoga. The whole beings, all parts of the being on all stages, on all levels, has to surrender to the divine. That is the integral yoga aim. The integral yoga is that which is said, this yoga implies not only the realization of God, but an entire consecration and change of the inner and outer life till it is fit to the manifested divine consciousness and become part of the divine work. So the whole being has to turn. Consummation of the yoga lies in the divinization of material body. The final aim of the integral yoga is the divinization of material body. That means the body also must realize the divine. That means the body also must realize the divine. When the mind realizes the divine, the mind becomes the divine mind. When the body realizes the divine, the body becomes the divine body. How it will be, we can't understand. Mind cannot know. That means the body also must realize the divine. To effect this change in the consciousness as well as in the body, they brought down the supermind. If the supermind has not been brought down by Sri Aurobindo and the mother, this integral yoga will not be fulfilled, cannot be fulfilled. And there is no use with the integral yoga. Because of the supramental consciousness they brought down onto the earth, because of that, now we are able to follow the integral yoga. We are getting enough power, enough energy from the supermind into the earth atmosphere so that it activates the supermind which is already indirectly working under the conditions of mind and life and body. They brought down the supermind, people should say. But is it not there already on the earth? It is already there on the earth. What is that they brought down? They brought down something that is true. I don't say that is wrong. That is true. But that is not the only case because the supermind is already there. Why? Because the matter is the condensation of the Supreme itself. Matter is the condensation of the Supreme Consciousness itself. So when the Supreme Consciousness is condensed into the matter, all the qualities, all the levels of Supreme are there in the matter. That means the supermind also is there in the matter, but it is working under the conditions of mind, life, and body. These are conditioning the supermind, which is working already there. That's why the higher supermind came down, and it is activating the supermind, which is already dormant in the matter. And now both sides, from inside and from outside, both sides, the supermind is pressing the humanity to go forward to reach the higher consciousness. That is the greatest thing now happening in the world. So, it is why I emphatically say that Sri Aurobindo's and the mother's teachings are more relevant nowadays. That more relevant because the power is there to help you. A living power, a conscious power, an active power is there around us. Even if you make a small hole with a pin that is ready to enter into you and change all the things. Because mother asked many times, let us do our job in you. Please permit us to do your job in you. We do it. Your yoga, we will do it if you allow. That is what they are telling. We are not allowing. No, we are not. We are putting our own emotions, our own conditions on that. You work like this, you work like this, you bring these results, you bring these results. Now that they will not hear us. According to their laws, according to their rules, they will do that. That is why I emphatically say that Sri Aurobindo's and the mother's teachings are more relevant for the present world to go forward in a new direction. Understand this, in a new direction. That means the new direction not for the human being alone. They have given a new direction to the entire evolution. That means even now, what we can see, Rama has came down in the end of the Yuga. He has given a new direction for the coming ages to follow. In the same way, Krishna came in the end of the Yuga and he has given a new direction to the evolution to go forward. Now Sri Aurobindo and the twin avatars came and they brought down a new force onto the earth and they have given a new direction to the evolution to move forward. This is very logical and rational also. Why they have to come to continue in the same way? Even thousands of years also, after passing thousands of years also, the humanity has to continue in the same ignorance. They have to suffer the same thing. No, that is not the purpose of the avatar to come down. It has to show the new way, new direction for the evolution to be mankind more happy. They laid. Nay, they don't take the word. They hewed a track. There is no soft ground. There is no plain ground on that. Because of so many ups and downs are there in the creation already. They hewed a way. They hewed a track for the evolution, and hitherto, the evolution cannot, but has to run on the new track. That is, man has to transform his consciousness. That is the new track they have given. He has to transform his consciousness. Realization of the divine in the mind or vital level is not sufficient. They have to bring that power and knowledge into day-to-day life. This is the final aim. Day-to-day life. If you are able to live the day-to-day life with a divine body, that is best. That is ultimate reality. Finally, we should see what assurance Sri Aurobindo has given to mankind. We are coming to the close. What is that they have given? What is that they have assured the humankind? Now we will see. However, man's mind may tire or fail his flesh. However, man's mind may tire or fail his flesh. A will prevails, a will with capital W. A will prevails cancelling his consciousness choice. A will prevails cancelling his conscious choice. Till he has found himself, he cannot pause. He cannot pause. Till he has found himself, unless he found himself, he will not take rest. He has to find himself, that means his self. his self, he has to find his self. Until then, he will not get any rest. Till he has found himself, he cannot pause. A light there is that leads, a power that aids. A power that aids. There is ready, a power is ready beside you to help you, to aid you. The soul in man is greater than his fate. Nature shall live to manifest secret God. The spirit shall take up the human play. His every life become the life divine. That's all for today, dear friends. That the Mother and Sri Aurobindo bless us all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Anyone wants to interact with sir? Now the platform is open for the interaction. Please unmute yourself and interact with sir. If you have any queries, please ask him. Any one of you.
అమ్మా ఉమామహేశ్వరి గారు,
చెప్పండి సార్.
దయచేసి మీరు రెస్పాండ్ అవ్వండి అని అడగబాకండి.
ఓకే.
ఎవరికైనా రెస్పాండ్ అవ్వాలని అనిపిస్తే వాడందరికి వాళ్ళనే రెస్పాండ్ అవ్వనివ్వండి. మీరు రెస్పాండ్ అవ్వండి అని మీరు అడిగినప్పుడు వాడు మొహాట పడతారు. లేకపోయినా మాట్లాడాల్సిన అవసరం కలిగించిన వాళ్ళు అవుతారు మీరు. అందుకని మొహాట పెట్టద్దు. If they are having anything in their minds, they can open their minds.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I will give you one simple example. Mother used to give classes in the playground. After many days giving classes in the playground, mother stopped all of a sudden one day. Then one of the child is very anxious to know everyday classes, and she asked the mother, "Why, mother, you stopped the classes?" Then what mother told, because I don't know whether what I am telling is going into your brain or going above your brain. Because you are not asking any questions. How can I understand that you are understanding my teachings?
Yes.
That is why you must be brave enough even to ask questions. That is what mother told to the students.
Okay, so, sir. Now the next speaker is also ready for us.
Pardon?
Next speaker is also ready for us. Dr. Anand Reddy Garu is here online. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for joining now.
అమ్మా, నాకు సరిగ్గా వినపట్లేదు నాన్న, ఇబ్బందిగా ఉంది నాకు.
Okay. Sir, thank you very much. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and coming here and giving the lecture on the relevance of Sri Aurobindo's teachings to the present day world, sir. You have touched upon all the angles of the philosophy and the new definitions given for the old philosophical words by Sri Aurobindo, and what is perfection, how we have to move forward to get the purpose of the creation and to gain the absolute ananda. So what is ignorance as defined by Sri Aurobindo, what is consciousness, what is supermind, and what is integral yoga, everything you have explained, and how relevant all these are to the present day world. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your talk, and I thank from the bottom of my heart for accepting my invitation and enlightening us on all these terms. Thank you.
Madam.
Sir.
Sir, my humble submission, sir, 1 minute.
Yes, sir, carry on.
Yes, please.
Sir, good morning. My name is Dr. S. O. Kumar. I am with the madam only in the English department of SRR Government College. Sir, my question is, paradoxically and tragically, the super consciousness talked about and explored by Aurobindo ji has taken a negative turn in the post-independence era in our country. Why it has happened, sir? My question is that why the super consciousness exposed or explored or projected or envisioned by Aurobindo ji has taken completely a negative turn, as we see large scale negativity, large scale corruption, lot of disorder, lot of this and that. Why it has taken so? Why paradoxically it has taken that turn?
Sir, when something new is coming into the creation, the old will not accept. The old will not accept because if a new idea has to enter into you, the old ideas, previous ideas will not, you are not able to forego easily.
Sir.
And when the new consciousness or super consciousness is entering into the ignorant consciousness, all the ignorance try to oppose the super consciousness.
Sir.
All the ignorance tries to oppose it. That's why, see, in the case of Sri Krishna, all the opposition has raised their heads only to be eliminated by Sri Krishna. In the avatar, Sri Krishna, we know that he is the perfect avatar. He came down from the higher consciousness, that means from the Supreme Purushottama. But how many difficulties he has to face? Even before his coming into the creation itself, the difficulties started against him. Why?
Yeah.
Because whatever is to be eliminated in the creation, they have to raise their heads to be eliminated. That in the same way, because we are in a particular time of the evolution, that means we are in the junction period of one age to the other age. We are changing from one age to the other age. We are in the Sanjha Samayam, that is what we say, in the twilight area. That we have to face. The new is not completely taking its grip on the old, and the old is not leaving its place to new theories or new consciousness or new power. So it is in between, the war is going on between the old and the new. But sometimes the old can prevail, but sometimes it appears that the old is prevailing than on the new. But it happens finally, the old will be eliminated and the new will take place, but it may take 100 years or 500 years. But we are not going to stay to see what is going to happen, but we will be there. There is no doubt. But we don't remember what was when we was here. The earth conditions were like that. We wouldn't remember that. But we will definitely, the new conditions will change. The new conditions will take place in the old slowly disappears. But with all its opposition, but with all its resistance, it tries to remain itself. That is what we call Thana Balam antam chusara. The old is already gripped you totally. But it does not leave you immediately. Or something new is coming, you get out, means it will not go. In the same way, the hostile forces also. What are the hostile forces? Hostile forces are the forces with which you have made friendship. Now you are asking them to get out. They will not leave you. And they will try to destroy what you are going to get. That we have to bear these things for some time. Even all these things are very easy to talk, but it is very difficult to realize. To go to the higher consciousness from lower consciousness is the route, we will say. But it is very difficult to lose the lower consciousness. Lower consciousness with which we lived all the time, for all these years. For so many past lives also we are in contact with that, we are friendship with that. We made friendship with that. Now we want to get out. No, they will not leave. Some destruction will be there because of this. Slowly, that also will disappear. Let us be hopeful. The Mother and Aurobindo are there. That the new consciousness is working, and it is working. Even if it is difficult also, we will hold the feet of the Mother and Aurobindo tight. This is the period. The man who believes, even a single man's perfection can save the world, that what Aurobindo assured us. If you hold tight your perfection, if you hold tight your perfection, if you hold tight your higher consciousness, then that will slowly make the dark forces disappear.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Good morning, sir.
Sir.
Are you audible?
Yes, yes.
Sir,
Yes, carry on.
Namaste, sir. This is Jayanti from Kakatiya University. Your lecture is quite interesting, sir. We learned a lot of points. But my doubt is, are we not going away from religion and God when we are following this supermind, consciousness, and spirituality?
The purpose of the religion is also will be met in Sri Aurobindo's philosophy. But you will not limit yourself to your religious ideas and religious limitations. You have to go beyond that. Religion gives certain do's and don'ts only, but we have to go beyond do's and don'ts also. Whatever the divine is doing, that is becoming dharma. That's why when you are identify yourself with the divine, whatever you do, it becomes the dharma. That means no limitations will stop you without progressing forward. So even though you are having some religious ideas, religious beliefs, we don't say that you have to cut them or you have to lose them, but put in them the sincerity and higher consciousness. But don't try to follow the religious deeds only for the limited purpose or limited benefit or limited result. So your religious attitude also must have to overcome to reach the divine who is beyond religions. What religion is there for the divine? He is beyond religions. That is why he became the divine. If he is confirmed to or confined to one religion, he cannot be the divine. So that's why we have to broaden our mind, we have to broaden our understanding, we have to broaden our consciousness. That is what Mother and Sri Aurobindo always tell us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Amma?
Yes. Yes, sir. Sir, Anand Reddy garu line lo unnar, sir. We'll go to the next session.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, Amma. Bye.
Anand Reddy garu, sir, I welcome you to this Today National Webinar being conducted by SRR Government Arts and Science College, Autonomous Nagar, and in collaboration with ABD Government Degree College, Janagaon. With your cooperation and with your support and motivation, make it materialize this seminar, sir. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation and gracing the occasion and accepted my invitation to enlighten the students and the faculty members of our college and the Janagaon College. Thank you. Before starting this lecture, I would like to present a few lines from Savitri. Ramakrishna sir, please mute yourself for a few minutes.
Okay.
Rajesh sir, please mute all the other participants. Yes, thank you. Man is a link between the demigod and the beast. A link between the demigod and the beast. He knows not his own greatness, nor his aim. He has forgotten why he has come and whence. His spirit and his members are at war. His lights break off too low to reach the skies. His mass is buried in the animal mire. A strange antinomy is his nature's rule. A riddle of opposites is made his field. Freedom he asks, but needs to live in bonds. He has need of darkness to perceive some light, and need of grief to feel the little bliss. He has need of death to find a greater life. All sides he sees and turns to every call. He has no certain light by which he walk. His life is blind man's buff, a hide and seek. He seeks himself, and from himself he runs. Meeting himself, he thinks is it other than he. Always he builds, but finds no constant ground. Always he journeys, but nowhere he arrives. He found he would guide the world, himself he cannot guide. He would save his soul, his life he cannot save. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And now I request Ramakrishna, Assistant Professor of English from SRR Government Degree College, to present the profile of Anand Reddy garu.
Thank you, madam. Can you hear my voice? Can you hear my voice?
Yes, yes, it is clear.
Okay, fine. So I deem it my privilege to invite eminent scholar Dr. Anand Reddy, the chairman of Institute of Human Studies, Hyderabad, and the director of Sri Aurobindo Center for Advanced Research, Sakar, Puducherry. He belongs to our region, Telangana, but philosophically informed and spiritually enlightened minds like him transcend the regional, spatial and temporal limits. So he has been literally dwelling in the world of Sri Aurobindo philosophy since his childhood days. His father was a scholar who did research on Sri Aurobindo. He also pursued his doctoral and postdoctoral studies on the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo. He received his doctorate on Sri Aurobindo's concept of physical transformation from Madras. He dedicated himself to disseminate the thought and vision of Sri Aurobindo through Sakar, his brainchild, ever since its establishment in Puducherry. He has traveled across India and to USA, Europe, and Far East to enlighten the minds about spiritual evolution through his lectures and talks. He has authored about 10 books on the work and vision of Sri Aurobindo and has delivered about 2,000 hours of talks. His expertise on the life divine can be witnessed by readers in the volumes published by him. Now, I request Dr. Anand Reddy, sir, to give a talk on the integral philosophy of Sri Aurobindo. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, Ramakrishna, for a brief introduction to me.
Thank you, sir.
And Uma Maheshwari, I'm thankful to you for organizing a seminar and for inviting me to this seminar. as a politician, he worked for India. And because of his great work, today we are seeing the 75th anniversary of India's freedom. He came towards the end, not towards the end in the year 1905. And he was there just in 5 years, 1905 to 1910. But he brought in such a revolutionary ideal, which was not there before. Of course, you know that there was a freedom fighters. Great many people came. It started with the revolution of the saints and the sannyasins and all that. You know, we have heard about lots of things. But what happened at that time was there was a fight for the freedom of the country. That's the only thing. We want India to be free and use any method. It was a violent method or satyagraha method. Of course, satyagraha comes later. But any method was good enough. But when Sri Aurobindo comes into picture, what is the difference he made to the freedom movement? That's what is very important. Not many people know about that. People say, oh, he was a revolutionary. But he was not a revolutionary like Bhagat Singh and these people and that people who fought for the country, gave up his life. No, not at all. So he's not a revolutionary nationalist in the sense that we know about other revolutionaries. What he brought to India's freedom movement was an ideal, a new ideal that did not exist before him. What is the new ideal? That India must be free so that her voice in the world can be heard by other countries. Otherwise, he simply said, the voice of a slave is not respected or heard by other countries in the world. So we must be equal to all of them. Then only when we say something, they'll pay heed. So that was the number one, that a country in serfdom cannot have any kind of influence on the world. And why should you think that India should have an influence on the world? Well, if India's influence is not there in the world, Sri Aurobindo predicted that India is fighting not for her own independence. Remember that. That is a change in the ideal. Otherwise, there have been many countries which have fought for their own country's freedom. He said, no, I'm not fighting for the freedom of my country alone, for the sake of the freedom alone. He says, I want India to be free so that tomorrow she becomes the guru of the world. And tomorrow when the time comes, she will save the world with her knowledge, with her Vedanta, with her spiritual knowledge, with her spiritual experience. He foresaw very well that India and the world will go through lots of catastrophes, lot of wars and all that. But then the world, when it comes to a new age, if India's wisdom and knowledge and spiritual experience is not shared with the world will not survive. We may be very rich countries. People may become artificial intelligence, all the robots and everything. But the world will not survive, will not go into the future just by this scientific materialistic development. He said there will be a time that will come in the history of the world where they will require India's spiritual knowledge and wisdom. So Sri Aurobindo's main ideal was, number one, as I said, India must be free not for herself but for the world. Number two, the world's survival depends on India's freedom. You see a completely different twist to the whole thing. Of course, looking at his ideal, many people followed him. Some took to revolution by bomb, some took by fight. That's the means was different. But in his journal, Vande Mataram, which he wrote in Calcutta from Calcutta, so this is a shift he made. So afterward, there are people who came under the Indian scenario and somebody started satyagraha, somebody said non-violence, somebody said this. These are all the outer means. But Sri Aurobindo's main ideal was that I want freedom for the country so that tomorrow's world can be guided by this country. And for this, any means of freedom can be brought in by any means. And he said, I follow Sri Krishna's method. If there is a need, that I should save my country even by violence. Why shouldn't I do that? At the time of Mahabharata, Sri Krishna took it up. The Dharma Yuddha, he said. But it's a Yuddha. And there's Arjuna, when he wanted to retreat, run away and give up and surrender, he said, no. If you do that kind of a surrender and said, put down your Gandiva and say, I don't want to fight, I don't want to kill people, and all the philosophy that you know in chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita, what does Arjuna, Sri Krishna say? That if you leave the field now, there will be tomorrow a greater catastrophe on Bharat. So he said, fight, and I am with you. But this is the same policy Sri Aurobindo takes up. He says spiritual Shakti, Bharat Shakti is behind us. And we have to fight for the freedom. Because the enemy is there. Somebody is strangling the Bharat Mata is there. Mr. Dinakar, can you put off your volume, please? So this was the ideal. Any means to get back my motherland's freedom. And so he did not bother. So this is a new twist given by Sri Aurobindo. And thanks to that, he even went to the prison, 1 year prison and all that. But that is the new contribution of Sri Aurobindo to India's freedom movement. That's number one. Now, having cleared this question of patriot or a philosopher or a politician, not a philosopher, but a politician. Now, let me come to the second aspect, where he says, I'm a poet. So it's not a philosophy that's important for him. Because philosophy is just a rational description of his experience. But poet is what? Poet is a creator. Creator not only of a new vision, but a new power. What we call in the Vedas as the Kavi. Kavi is not just writing poetry and novels and all that. A Kavi is one who creates a new realm of thought, brings down a new power. That is called the mantra. So he ultimately took to mantric poetry in Savitri, where Savitri is now the new power. It's not just a poet, it's not just an epic poem. It's an epic new power of consciousness. And that is what he later on, after coming to Pondicherry, he achieved this new power of consciousness, what has been called the supermind. Supermind is not a new power, just per se. It's a new consciousness, which has no parallel on earth in humanity, in its creation. Yes, it is there at the basis of creation, but it has not yet manifest. And Sri Aurobindo believed that after India gains its freedom, we must gain the freedom of humanity. You see what a large vision he has. He says just India will get its freedom. It's a matter of time. And some disciple asked him in the 1920s or 1910, I don't remember the figure, the date. That gentleman wanted to become a disciple of Sri Aurobindo and come over to Pondicherry. And Sri Aurobindo allowed him to become a disciple and come back. He was from Gujarat. He wanted to come to Pondicherry. So that gentleman asked, but I'm fighting for the freedom of the country. What is the guarantee that India will be free and then I can be happily sitting at your feet in Pondicherry? So he says, what is the guarantee? So this, I give you the guarantee. So this is the Shakti he had achieved. It's a matter of time. He came away to Pondicherry, and many people, unfortunately, in the colleges, in the disciples, in the centers, they believe that Sri Aurobindo has run away to Pondicherry because he could not face the heat of politicians. On the contrary, as I gave you an example, he knew the country would be free in another 20-25 years. But then he cannot wait until the country becomes free and then there is a flag hoisting of freedom of India. Because he has the next step to do in his life. That is bring freedom to humanity. So he goes a step higher. You see, in society, in the human evolution, there's first the family, then there's a clan, then there is a state, then there is the nation, and then beyond the nation, there is humanity. And so Sri Aurobindo says, he had the family for namesake alone, and he never believed in a clan to become in the small group of this or that, or Ghosh or Gupta or Rao or anything. He was beyond that. But he worked for the nation, which is a very important step in the evolution of humanity. Having done his duty to the nation, he now goes to the humanity. So that is why he came away to Pondicherry. Not to say about India what will happen. He saw the future already, is already done. It's a matter of few years. So that is why we call him a great creator, a person who has brought in a new power. A new power for what? Not for India's freedom. Because Superman was not necessary for freedom of India. But Superman was necessary for the freedom of humanity. So he said, I must bring that power, the supramental power. Well, it is not that people should not think that Sri Aurobindo did not bring the power. He brought it. It is there in the eternity of things. It is there in matter in the earth. But mind also was always there, right, even before mankind was born. But with the coming of man, the mind came in. So the mental consciousness was brought in when the human beings were ready. Similarly, the supramental power has to be brought in, or for bringing in, man has to be made ready. The patram has to be ready. So this making the mankind ready, he did tapasya. So this is a poet. That is why we call him a poet and a politician. The politician belongs to nation, and the poet belongs to humanity. So this is the right perspective that we should see Sri Aurobindo. Now, after telling you this introduction about Sri Aurobindo, what should be our perspective? Let me go to some important facts, highlights of Sri Aurobindo's philosophy. Now, when we say the word integral philosophy, what do we understand by that? You see, the word integral itself, we should try to understand first of all. Integral is all-embracing, all-inclusive, not rejecting this and not accepting that. And all our history, in our Indian history, spiritual history, all of them took one side and the other side. Some call it nirguna, some call it saguna, some call it nirvana, some call it this. So there have been exclusive paths. You take up any aspect of Indian philosophy, be it Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, or this Acharya or that Acharya. Sometimes they took one or two aspects, but mostly it was unilateral. So Sri Aurobindo, for the first time, takes all the aspects of the divine. What do we mean by all the aspects? There are infinite aspects. But what we mean in philosophy, all the aspects is the nirguna and saguna. Brahman has one, Brahman has many. Because people have had lots of philosophical discussions to say, oh, Brahman is, he cannot be manifest. He is only a single unitary consciousness. How can there be any kind of multiplicity of the world? So Brahman cannot create the world. That is why the world is a mytha. And the other said, no, world is a reality, Brahman is a reality, but I don't know where I am. So there have been lots of discussions about this or that, or this one or that one. But here is one Sri Aurobindo who says, no, the divine is integral. He is all these aspects all together. He is including himself, saguna, nirguna, one or many, or silent Brahman, active Brahman. All the epithets that we use from the Vedas and the Upanishads, they all belong to one divinity, and he is in all. So he accepts the world, he accepts the divine, Brahman, he accepts the world, he accepts the many, he accepts you, he accepts me. And he accepts science, he accepts religion, he accepts all that. So this is that integral vision. And this integral vision is so cosmic. And he says, because this world is a creation of the divine. So you cannot reject this creation. And so he would say, let us embrace the divine from all different angles. So he says, if you want to go to the Shakti aspect, go ahead. If you believe in the Nirguna aspect, go ahead. There's nothing wrong. In fact, it says, it is our soul that wants to choose the Nirguna aspect or the Saguna aspect or this aspect. Why should our mind make barriers and says, no, Brahman is alone? All that are mental barriers. So here is one person who has broken all those mental barriers and religious barriers and philosophic barriers. Say, no, the divine is multi-aspected, multiple aspects. So we should go integrally. So integral itself means to seek the divine in all its aspects. From there, the word integral yoga came in. Because it says a path which leads to the integral divine itself must be integral. I cannot have a path of bhakti yoga alone or jnana yoga alone or this yoga alone. So that means you're narrowing down your yoga, your path. It says an integral vision and integral divine must be approached by integral path. So is integral philosophy and integral yoga are together. This is why his yoga and philosophy are not separate, because his philosophy is itself based on his yoga. So his integral yoga is itself based on integral philosophy. That's the first thing I would like you to understand, what we mean by integral philosophy. And then I'm coming to the next highlight. You see, if you take the life divine, there are so many things to it. I mean, so many aspects. And it is a marvel of a creation that people say, normally we think, oh, Savitri is a great book. Savitri is a wonderful book. Savitri has great power. I agree. I cannot deny that. And all of you know very well that Mother herself has spoken so much about Savitri. But that does not mean, please remember, that the life divine is no less than Savitri. The whole vision, the concept, the intricacies of thought, the yoga systems, all are synthesized in the life divine. But the only thing is, difference is that the life divine is like the Upanishads. Savitri is like the Vedas. What do I mean? It is highly symbolic. Savitri or the Vedas is highly symbolic. We cannot even understand those symbols until somebody explains to us. Whereas the life divine is like the Upanishads, where it is metaphysically, the language is metaphysical. That means something closer to our mind, a little more graspable. That is why the Upanishads, people read the Upanishads and not the Vedas, because Vedas is conceptually extremely ambiguous, symbolic, and far from our day-to-day life. So this is the difference between Savitri and life divine. Because what are the truths that are there in the Upanishads are also there in the Vedas. Whatever truths are there in the Vedas are also there in the Upanishads. Similarly, Savitri and life divine have the same truths, explained differently. In Savitri, we bring in personification of Savitri and Ashwapati and Satyavan, etc. In the life divine, there is no personification. Life divine is impersonal. Savitri is personal. Although the truths that are spoken of are also impersonal in Savitri, but it's easier for people to hold to truth when there are persons involved. And persons who are the person, not the modern man, but the persons who have been existing right from the Vedic times. Savitri and Satyavan and Ashwapati is the Mahabharata lore, Vedic lore. So when for Indians that there's a connection is there with Savitri and Satyavan, it becomes closer to our understanding. So Sri Aurobindo brought Savitri, personification of persons. That's a major difference. And of course, the other one is Savitri is mantric verse. Life divine is prose, but a prose which is poetic. There may not be iambic pentameter in that, but some of the passages you read is sheer poetry, although written in prose style. So what I want to impress on you is that all these thoughts that I'm telling you are there in the life divine. And if somebody or anybody wants to really make his mind strong and logical, read the life divine. You will not get any logical mind training in any other book. But life divine is a marvel of a creation where your mind becomes tremendously logical, like a scientist. Your mind will become like a scientist. So these are the differences. Now coming back to the so-called integral philosophy, some of the highlights. Integral philosophy is known for two things. It is synthesis, the word is synthesis, and the other word is evolution. But the word synthesis we apply more to yoga, and the word evolution we apply to life divine. So Sri Aurobindo's central idea as philosophy is that of evolution. If you have read Sri Aurobindo or if you are interested in reading Sri Aurobindo, you will see every book, he has written 36 volumes. Of course, there are some letters and all that. Apart from that, all the books that he wrote in the Arya, eight books are on. Each of this book is based on only one idea, evolution. So if you catch this central idea of evolution, you can understand all the books of Sri Aurobindo. Because the human cycle is the evolution of the society. Ideal of human unity, evolution of nations from going toward the human unity. And then if it's a question of life divine, it's human life being transformed into divine life. If you see Savitri, his mortality of man becomes immortality of man. You take any book. So friends, students, teachers, colleagues of the department, if you have any idea of trying to understand Sri Aurobindo, understand his concept of evolution. Now, when we say the word concept of evolution, many people have written long essays and articles, but I'm more interested in my students who are there in front of me. Because you see, Sri Aurobindo can be very complex, very complicated. And therefore, some students and elders and teachers, they're afraid of Sri Aurobindo. First of all, they say, oh my God, Life Divine is 800 pages. No, we cannot even touch it. Savitri is 24,000 lines. Very difficult. And so this is where the difficulty comes. So young friends of mine, that's why I'm simplifying it, the whole thing, to give you some kind of a taste. The word evolution carries with it 3 stages. The central idea of evolution is 3 words. One is foundation. These are all from Sri Aurobindo, it's not my invention. Foundation, ascent, and integration. These are the 3 words. If you understand this, you understand the whole of evolution. Word is foundation, ascent, integration. Now, what do we mean by this? All these 3 words? All of you have seen a tree grow, the growth of a tree. How does a tree come up from the ground? Can any student tell me how does a tree come up from the ground? Why and how? You can raise your hand and tell me why. How does a tree grow from the ground, from matter?
It takes seed as a base. It takes seed as a base.
It takes
Seed.
Yeah, lovely. Where is the seed put?
The
In the ground.
Yes.
Right. So the seed is already put in the ground. Okay? Now from that seed, what happens? Next stage?
It starts germinating.
Germinating. What does it mean, germinating means? Can I see the germination?
Under the ground, we can't see, obviously.
Very good. Next?
Yeah, above the ground, we keep watching it.
Yeah, above the ground we
Slowly
see
it
it.
grows.
Right? Very good. Now what happens as germination that we have the seed 2 inches, 5 inches, 8 inches, 1 foot, 2 feet. What happens after that?
It
When
becomes a plant and later on it becomes a tree.
that becomes what?
Seedling.
It becomes a plant.
It becomes a
Later
plant.
on, yeah, later on it grows to be a tree, big tree.
Then big tree. Now is
It bears a
that
flower.
huh?
It gives
It bears a
seeds,
flower.
It gets a
seeds,
flower, lovely.
flowers. Yeah.
Then from flower, it bears a fruit.
We get the fruit.
Yeah, we
Is that the
Again,
last stage?
fruit to seed.
What happens after the fruit?
Again, we will get a seed.
all of us
Again
will
it gives a
enjoy the
seed.
fruit.
So that is the evolution. As simple as that. Now I will show you the
Seed to
3
seed.
stages. You have yourself told me the secret of evolution. First, there is a seed under the ground. It is because the seed is already there under the ground that it grows. So what is the foundation of the tree? Is the seed. Similarly, when anything grows, comes out of matter, in evolution comes forth, something is pre-existent, already put beforehand. So this putting the seed beforehand is the foundation stage. What Aurobindo calls the foundation is there. It's called pre-existent. So what is the conclusion we can see? That there is an evolution possible. The seed can grow into the tree. Subhani, can you put off your mic, please? Subhani, can I request you to put off?
Kumar sir, please mute yourself. Kumar
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, he has put it off. So now what happens? So that means anything that grows from the ground up, it is already pre-existent. That means in the form of seed, it is there in matter. Similarly, Aurobindo says, if there is evolution of growth of consciousness from matter to mind, life, what has happened on earth? Science tells us that there's been in the beginning of beginnings only matter. Am I right? You're all young scientists, students of science. You should know very well that in the beginning of beginning there is only matter. And after millions of years, what happened? Yes, my young friends, what happened after millions of years of only rock upon this earth? Tell me. Well, you are students of science. What happens? RK? Who is RK? RK, I can't hear you. Unmute yourself.
Sorry, that's me, Rekha. Well, from matter came life, of course. I mean, from
All right,
million...
stop. The way you said is very wonderful. Matter came life, of course. That's the thing I wanted to hear from you. But when you said, of course, why is it important? How did you say Sunday? Of course, what do you mean? What is your little word called, of course? What do you mean by that?
I mean, it's a retrospective vision. I mean, going by the way science has put it, it was just plain matter, and then you had a unicellular organism, and then from where the complexity of life grew, and then here we are.
Here we are with life. Stop at that. You are not yet with the mind. Next stage came life. It was automatic. You said, of course, means automatic. Understood. That's the meaning of it, of course. Now, this understood is meaningful because from where did life come about? You see, matter break up the rock and break it into atomic. Can you see the seed of life there? What does your great science tell you? The unicellular thing is fine, but did it come out from the water cells or from the rock cells? No. That you see the life, you said, okay, unicellular, or what I say, a tree. When we are taking the example of the tree, is that tree, how did it come about? Science cannot tell you. You have a beautiful stone, you pulverize it into millions of atoms, and then you can still break the atom and see subatomic thing, but there's no tree there. You're not found the green grass or the tree or the mango tree or the banyan tree. So my question is, how did that tree come about? And when we have logically explained that there must be something pre-existent for it to manifest, for it to become a tree. We said the seed is already there in matter, that is why it grew up. So that means what's the conclusion? That life is already there in matter. Now we understand, science will not tell you, but spirituality tells you that life was also already existent in matter, which we cannot see, that's fine, doesn't matter. A scientist cannot see, but a spiritualist sees that there is life there. So what is the origin of life? It is something in matter. But is matter itself the origin of life? From where did matter come about? You see, we also from matter came, but from where did matter come about? That's the question we need to ask. Otherwise, science will tell you see, it came from there came life, and from life came unicellular matter and all. But I want to see you understand the basis. What is there behind matter? Is it there? Can this matter have life? Theoretically, yes. There must be pre-existent. But now if I ask you the next question, what is matter? Can from the stone a life come about, a seed come about? No. Then what is the conclusion? What is matter? Yes, Shirisha. Tell me that answer. Shirapuram, Shirisha. Can you give me the answer? What is there behind matter? Or Ramakrishna, you are the professor, I know that, but maybe you could attempt. What is there behind? Because behind life, I saw there's matter. But next question, behind matter, what is there? Because
Spirit.
matter has come from somewhere.
Spirit,
Who is
I
that?
think.
Mr. Kumar.
Spirit.
Yeah, very good. Now, this meaning of spirit is a Western word or an Indian word? Because I don't understand what is spirit. Spirit, what do you mean? What do you mean by spirit? Spirit is, I'm a spirit, or the goose is also a spirit, or the whiskey is also spirit. But what do you mean by spirit?
Every living being has a spirit in him or her.
Who's that? May I see your face? Who's speaking? Jayanti?
This is Jayanti, sir.
Good. Every living, what is it?
Every living being has a spirit in him or her.
Well, my question you are not understood. I said, what is behind matter? Not behind me and you. I know there's a spirit. I know it's dead or alive. But what is behind matter?
Spirit, I think.
Acha, now you say the same. So behind matter is also spirit. Is that spirit visible?
No.
No. So that word spirit, which is a very vague term because I told you spirit is general applicable. But in philosophy, in Indian philosophy, we call it consciousness. Understand? So that word consciousness is behind matter, is behind every form, behind you and behind me. Every form in this world has a basic thing called consciousness. And if you go further into Indian philosophy, this consciousness is called Chit Shakti. You have heard this word Chit Shakti? No, Ramakrishna, I'm not asking you. You are a professor there. My students, have you heard of this word Chit Shakti? Yes, RK?
Yes, I have. I mean, Chit Tapas, if I'm right, the Shakti, the Tapas Shakti of Sachidananda, one of
There
it.
you,
that is the creative force. And if I have to fall back really on Sri Aurobindo, like it's the supermind, which is the ideative force behind that. And supermind is the power of Satchidananda. So we have come from there. So
There.
that's how I look at it.
I think, RK, what is your level of degree? PhD or
I'm an autodidact, Dr. Reddy. So literally, I've just done like a master's of teaching, nothing more. But I read Sri Aurobindo diligently, that's all.
She's not our student, sir.
She is not your student?
Yes.
Well, you should become, in this department, one of the professors there. You have the talent for that.
Yes,
You have a clarity of thought.
Yes.
I think Uma Maheshwari, I recommend her. I've taken her interview, now she has passed. You can recruit her in your office, in your department. Well, RK, you are right. The Chit Shakti is the consciousness. Chit Shakti is a part of Satchit Tapas Ananda. That's perfectly right. Now, behind that is supermind. Let's come to that. Let's not jump, I'm a teacher here. I'm not a lecturer or a professor of your department, Uma Maheshwari. I think you have chosen the wrong person. You have spoken, not a speaker, but I'm a teacher. And teachers take a lot of time. So you have taken 45 minutes. So I'll have to cut short the story, but it's so interesting. You have RK and Sripuram, Ramakrishna, and Rajesh Kumar. That's why I said I want all the students in front of me. So I'll take a class, not take a lecture class or whatever. That's different. That's right. RK, you're right. So we have said consciousness, and behind consciousness is the Satchidananda, who is the originator of this entire creation. So what have we done? Behind life, there's matter. Behind matter, there is consciousness Shakti or Chit Shakti. Behind Chit Shakti, there is a whole notion called the Satchidananda. So now we have come to the point of the foundation. Remember, all this I told you only the foundation. When we said foundation, ascension and ascent and integration, first point only I have covered. Second point is the ascent. Ascent, you have yourself said that. Somebody said there's a sapling, then it becomes a little bigger, then it becomes a tree. What is happening? Ascent is what? What's the meaning of ascent? I think I want to hear Shirisha. She's too much numb. Shirisha, can you tell me what's the meaning of ascent?
Agreement of something.
Higher levels of the meditation, sir.
Pardon me?
Higher levels of meditation is ascent.
अरे बाबा, meditation कहाँ से आ गया आप लोग को?
Agreement of something.
देखो meditation गुंची माట్లాడతలే. I want to know the meaning of ascent.
Agreement of something.
Ascent, ascent కాదు. This is ascending. Means growing up.
Vertical growth.
Growth. So we said in the tree there is an ascension. There is a growth. There is a growing up. And this in spirituality is growing up in consciousness, but also growing up on levels of consciousness. So first we said there's matter. Then we said next level is life. There's a growth. And after the life, what came up on earth? Jayanti, can I ask you? Jayanti.
Sir.
And madam, one thing, when you speak, I want to see your face, not hear your voice. Okay? Come on the video.
I don't know how.
Ayyo, Uma, you must have trained them first for all that. At least to show their face or to hide their face.
She's also not my student, sir. She's my classmate, friend.
Then that is worse still. Your classmate herself does not know how to put herself on video.
Okay.
However, it's not important. So Jayanti, what did you say just now? You were saying something now? Okay, I think I've forgotten lots of contact. However, so after life, what came? In the ascending order, what came up? Mr. Rajesh Kumar? What came upon earth after life on earth?
Is it mine, sir?
Right, who's saying that?
Me. It's
Rajesh?
Uma Maheshwari.
Uma Maheshwari. No, I didn't want you to answer, please. You are the head of the department, big professor. I'm not in line with you. I want to come with my children there. So, it came, the mind came. Are you sure the mind came, Uma Maheshwari? Now that you have answered you caught me, I'll catch you now. After life, what came? Mind? Think carefully. You're caught there. However,
Physical
not to
body.
catch you. Huh?
Physical body.
Physical body approach pendari. That matter has come, life has come. Between the mind and life, there's something else that came in. I think
Sir,
this
maybe
only my
existence.
student. Huh?
Maybe existence.
What's the meaning of existence? I'm speaking about forms, madam. Sonia Reddy Velma.
Microorganisms.
Huh?
Microorganisms.
Microorganism came long back when the life came, when there's unicellular form, when there's matter. And this, what came after life, I think is my student, who is called Shruti, should be able to answer. What came up?
What came up after life, you mean?
Yeah, what came up after life?
Psychic being?
Yep, that means you are my good student. She is my student, Shruti. She has done her PhD. Yesterday, I think you saw her speaking, huh? Was she good?
It's a wonderful speech, sir.
No, Uma Maheshwari, I'm not talking to you, please. Your praises, not praises, I don't care. You are a professor, you are HOD, but I am only an ordinary man. I want teacher with my students. However, now this is something new. We say something of the psychic being came. Everybody says mind, life and mind. I'm sorry, matter, life and mind. But Aurobindo would say there is the element of psychic being that starts. Because after psychic being, next is what Uma just now said, mind. Mind means man. After life, after the animals and the tigers and the baboons and the chimpanzees, there came the human being. That human being, what is this human being, man? What is this uniqueness from an animal, from a tiger, difference between man and the tiger? Yes, again, no, RK, I have asked enough. Others are hiding their faces. Who is the 63 others? Anyone else? I want to see your face. SK, who is SK? Show your face. Absent. SK, have you gone for taking some cup of coffee or something? Nehal said, who is this new girl? After, what's the meaning of man? What is his uniqueness? Unmute yourself, unmute yourself. Nehal, unmute yourself.
Man is with mind.
Man is with mind. You have seen one monkey also went to the moon? The Russians have done that?
Yes.
You think that monkey didn't have mind?
Intelligence would be a better word.
Okay, but intelligence is in my feet or in my belly?
Okay.
It's there in the mind only. But what I'm saying is, it's not right. The difference between you and the chimpanzee is not the mind. What is it? Who is that? I guess Shirisha is not talking. Shirisha, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Once again, you asked the question, sir.
The question is, what is the difference between human beings and animals?
Wisdom, sir.
What thing?
Wisdom.
Wisdom, my God. You are really a wise girl you are. No. Either it is the mind or...
It's wisdom, sir.
Intelligence. Sir, it is intelligence.
Baba is intelligence, mind, wisdom, all this is into one platform of mind only. But I'm telling you, no, it's not the mind or the wisdom that makes you different. My monkeys are very clever. My dogs are cleverer than me sometimes. My chimpanzees are better than me. So they have sometimes a greater intelligence. I think I come back to RK. What is the main essential difference between humans and the animals?
Is it four-leggedness or that came physical?
Is it the four-leggedness?
Is the psychic light? Maybe it's a buddhi.
Somebody said something more?
Actually, sir, if I'm not mistaken, animals are more intelligent than human beings, sir.
Very good. I agree with you. So, others, please listen to that. So, the difference is not intelligence, nor even wisdom. What is the difference? Somebody uttered the word.
The psychic being. Humans have the psychic being.
Agarwal, Gunavant Agarwal, you are a great Guni. Psychic being. The difference is the psychic being. So please remember, this wisdom, mind, intelligence, all that animals, as Mr. Praveen Kumar says, oftentimes they are better than us. So the essential difference is the psychic being. Now, why am I speaking about the psychic being? Because we said matter, life, psychic being, and then comes mind. So the psychic being is the rudiments of psychic being which have come in life itself. They are best seen in what? Psychic being in what thing in life, in life level. Yes, Ms. Bidwakar, Dr. Bidwakar. Where is psychic being seen?
Flowers.
Right. So the element, the beginning of psychic being is the flowers. Then only when the human beings come, the psychic being becomes the real Paka. It becomes Angushta Matre. It gets a shape and a form and a power. So now that the psychic being has already come upon earth, not in full-fledged, but the beginning of beginnings, then comes the great man. I don't know, should I call him the great man or the foolish fellow? Praveen, what do you say? The great man or the foolish man?
Foolish man, sir.
Very good. I think Praveen, I give it 10%, 10 out of 10. No, not the Praveen. You are Agarwal. Why is he foolish man? Look at the war that is happening. Yeah, I don't know if you are following the news. Ukraine and Russia. That could be the foolishest, most unwise, most unintelligent, most stupid thing that's happening in this world. That's why I call we are not yet fully human beings. So we have the psychic element, but we are not intelligent. We do not use our intelligence to anything, for peaceful purpose or anything. We are just egoistic. So, however, I think Uma must be looking at her watch and saying, "Sir, another 5 minutes, not too much." Yeah,
No, sir. No, sir. You can
What
continue.
no, sir? Next speaker, my sister is there. She's waiting for me. She's there behind me. And already
Lunch
she said,
break is
Anna.
there, sir, in between.
Huh?
Lunch break, 1 hour lunch break is there in between.
Lunch break, నాకు కూడా ఆకలి అవుతుంది అమ్మా 12:30 నా ఆకలి టైం అది లంచ్ టైం ఐ కెనాట్ మిస్ దట్ అదేంటంటే వాట్ ఆర్ ద అబౌట్ మైండ్ Now that is a question of ascent. We have ascended, evolution has come from the pre-matter level, which is called the inconscient level, to matter, to life, to psychic being, to mind. So there's been ascension. This is evolution. So there's a foundation and an ascension. But what is integration? See, this is the most important thing. Integration means that which goes higher in the evolution. Say, I'll give you an example. From life, the mind has come. Skipping the stage of psychic being. Now, when that mind came, is the mind in the chimpanzee and the mind in you and me the same capacity? What has happened? You see, when mind came, you see, our body is made of matter. You call it Panchabhutas, you call it this and that, all that is scientific. But basically it is matter, physical matter. Praveen Kumar ji, thoda sa mute kijiyega. That's fine, you are mute now. Okay? Now the thing is, this, when the mind came into this body, what is the difference between matter and body and your body and my body? You see, has matter undergone any change or not? You see, when I take a stone and my body, are they the same matter? Yes, Ramakrishna. Now I can take you. Is there a change between a rock and my body and your body? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
What's the difference?
I mean, between rock and a human being.
Human body, not a human being, human body.
Human body. So, I mean, it cannot be again reunited, I think, to bring it to the same shape. The rock, when it is...
the rock cannot be brought back to the same shape?
No, it cannot be broad.
The one thing that you should see is it has become more conscious than the rock. My body, if you pinch, it feels. If it's cold, you get cold. You get a cold in your nose. If it's hot, you start sweating. So this is a consciousness which is not there in the stone. Somebody is making a noise. Please put off. Yeah, that's better. So there is a difference between my body and the rock, because my body, the human body, has become more conscious. The word integration means that. That means the higher faculty, the mind, makes the lower faculty brings in some changes. It's a transformation. It's a change. Once the life came up, then when the tree came, then again matter changed. The earth that it was there, that it grew from, that has become more conscious. The earth that is there right below the tree and the rock 5 meters away is different. So what we understand by this integration is the higher evolutionary power always makes a change on the lower evolutionary power. So this is the rhythm of the integration. So these are the steps that we see. There's now the third step I've covered. The higher transforms the lower, changes. And also, unfortunately, because which has been our beginning? Beginning of beginnings is what? What we said in the evolution began from where? Evolution began from? Matter. So you see, one is mind changes matter, and matter delimits the mind, but it pulls the mind towards itself. There is a kind of akarshan. It says, no, you have to be with me. So our body is more conscious than rock, but the mind gets, limited. You see, I want to run 100 meters, 200 meters, but my mental will is there. I want to run, become first. But the body says, no, I'm sorry. I'm not feeling the energy. I'm not having energy, shakti. So I will work a little less. So you see, the body pulls the mind lower, and the mind pulls the body higher. So there is an integration and a delimitation. The lower always pulls the higher down, and the higher always pulls the lower up. So this is a work of integration that is taking place. This is evolution. But the last point, when we said that there is this question that there is a preconceived consciousness within, that preconceived, somebody said, sir, I put the seed in the ground. So whoever has said that, you are right. That seed, you have put it into. That putting it into is the word called involution. So evolution cannot be there bereft of involution. As you have put the seed into matter, and that seed from matter grew up. So there's somebody called Sachidananda put the consciousness into matter. So he himself came down. So that is the seed of Sachidananda. Nobody can put the Sachidananda because there's no other Sachidananda. So he himself comes down into matter. He himself comes down to different levels. And these levels are called involutionary planes. These levels, they start with the supermind, then the overmind, then the mid-mind levels, then the vital, then the mental, then the matter, then the inconscient. So these are called the involutionary planes which have come down. And then this evolution, once the seed of Sachidananda has been put into matter, it starts evolving. So this is the involution and evolution. And if you understand this, you have understood half of Aurobindo. This rule, this thumb rule, you can apply anywhere in Aurobindo's philosophy, and you apply this, you will understand. Any of his books. So this is the central argument of and line of thinking. And in that involution, there are different stages. And now, when the evolution takes place, it takes place in the opposite side, because in the involution, the supermind and ending with inconscient or matter. And in evolution, it started with matter, then came life, then came psychic being, then came mind, and then what? Go on. Beyond mind, what is there? There's something else. What came down is going up, backwards. So beyond mind, what is there? In that evolutionary concept, we say there is supermind, overmind, mid-regions, then mind. That means in the evolutionary process, after mind, there are some other stages, ending with the highest stage called the supermind. So supermind is a level of consciousness very way beyond the mind. Mother would say the difference that is there between the animal and the human being, there's the same difference between overmind and supermind. So it is not 10 more points and we get supermind. It's a completely new power, a new consciousness. And that is the level Sri Aurobindo says we are moving towards willy-nilly. And humanity will move into that. Not everybody there. Not everybody is not invited to the Superman. Please remember, you must get an invitation card. Don't say, sir, I'm coming to the Superman. No, sorry. Have you got a pass? This is, you have to have a pass. In the airplane boarding, what is the pass you get? Boarding pass. So you must get that boarding pass, then only you can board the ship called Superman. And it's not a boarding pass, is not a web check for your information. Web check is automatic, and anybody can make a boarding pass. But for getting into Superman, you need a boarding pass prepared by the yoga of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. It's they alone who can give you the boarding pass, not anyone else upon this earth. Because they know what are the features that will go into the boarding pass. And then they will have all the rules and regulations. Nowadays, boarding pass, they say you must have the mask, you must have RT-PCR and all that rules. Similarly, they have their rules. That you must do the sadhana, you must do the yoga, prepare your body, prepare your mind, prepare your will, prepare your psychic being. Then only at the end of it, they put a stamp, boarding pass is given, you get onto the ship. And there, the flight. Once you get the boarding flight, I'm going to get to Pondicherry tomorrow. I have to go to Delhi airport and then boarding pass to Chennai. I fly. But once you get the boarding pass of the Superman, where do you go? The next destination is Satchidananda. So the flight from Satchidananda to Supermind is next is Satchidananda. So this is a long journey, but I'm happy to be with you. But that's why I've taken Life Divine and I've taken out 12 volumes of explanations because I'm a bad teacher. I take a long time to explain. But and also I enjoy teaching my children, my students. So next time, Uma Maheshwari Jaladanki, if you remember, if you have time sometimes, you should see my classes or hear my classes. I think RK, if you are interested, you should listen to my talks. I've given 800 hours of talks on the Life Divine.
I have to tell you that already. I have a whole collection of your books with me. So,
so sorry. I'm so sorry.
You'd be happy to know that I'm editing one of your books right now. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Shruti, who is this person who is editing my works? Shruti?
She must have, yeah. So, well, of course, I am in touch with Sakar, so very much in touch with Sakar and in relationship with Sakar.
But really, can you give me your full name, RK?
It's Rekha Amma, so I don't know, it's showing as RK. I mean, this is the first time I'm seeing myself here, so it's showing as RK.
Yeah, Kavita Shakti, is it?
Yeah, so it's Rekha. It should show as Rekha. Yeah, I should change it on Google, actually.
Good.
Yeah.
Sakar, you are on my board of Sakar, not Supermind, but I'll give you a boarding pass for my Sakar.
I'm so grateful to hear that from you.
No, I'm so happy, there's some basic clarifications are there, and I'm extremely happy. And Shruti, if you're not gone to the bathroom, if you're still on the line, please take a number and name and all that. Rekha,
yes.
You come on board. Right.
Yeah,
thank you, Uma. It's been a wonderful session.
Sir, could you please explain what psychic being is?
No, that is my sister has to permit me. Because 12:35, I have already transgressed 55 minutes. Okay, but if my sister says Anna, you can take 5 minutes more, I will take. The sister, only 5. And can we are given such strict timings? And lunchtime, I need to have my lunch. However, 5 minutes are allowed just to do. Okay. What is the question of psychic being?
Yes, sir.
What's the meaning of soul? అర్థమైందా మీకు? Soul అంటే ఏంది? What is the soul? If you understand,
apart from particle from divine force, a spirit which travels from one birth to another birth.
Right. Well, adi soul kaadu. The one that travels from birth to birth is the psychic being. Soul doesn't travel from birth to birth. It is only the psychic being. You see, previously, this knowledge was not given, not by many of our Indian philosophers. They just said Atma veltadi from birth to birth is the Atma rebirth of, is not rebirth of Atma. Although in the Bhagavad Gita he uses the word Atman and all that. But Sri Aurobindo clarifies saying it's not the Atma that goes to rebirth to birth to birth. There's something called a psychic being. Now the soul is a generic term for the divine presence. When it individualizes, it becomes psychic being. So your psychic being form is different, my psychic being form is different. And we both have the divine particle. Through evolution, your evolution and my evolution, it takes a different intensity. దాన్ని మన psychic being ఉంటుంది. అందరి psychic being వేరే ఉంటుంది. It has the divine source is same. కానీ ఎట్లయితే బల్బులో ఒక 10 watts బల్బ్ ఉంటుంది, 100 watts బల్బ్ ఉంటుంది, 50 watts బల్బ్ ఉంటుంది. I'm sorry, speaking Telugu. So there must be different wattage. 10 watts, 15 watts, 20 watts. Similarly, each psychic being has a wattage. And now these psychic beings with a different wattage, next birth maybe I'm 10, 20 watts now. Because of my good work of reading Life Divine and Sri Aurobindo, it may become 100 watts next year, next life. So it gains wattage through the life experience. So what you do in life is important. If you do not do the right way of living, your wattage will become from 10 wattage next life will become only 11 watts. So that is why the importance of a spiritual life. A spiritual life alone that can increase the wattage of your psychic being. The psychic being is important for evolutionary purpose, right? Well, there should be another talk followed by this. There's a kind of a double evolution. Yes. The Sri Aurobindo speaks of the collective evolution and the individual evolution. But for that, our Maheshwari madam has to arrange another seminar,
definitely,
or another talk by Mr. Reddy,
definitely.
and dot. Like too much chapter. There's too much. My Shruti is looking at me. He says, "Uncle, don't engage yourself with more talks. I have a lot of work at Sakar, so I'll have to take her permission." Right, guys? Has it been a wonderful session?
Give me a minute time to pay vote of thanks to you, sir.
I want to normal.
Krishna, sir.
You see, they have heard me, and there's more than enough. and their smiles themselves are my vote of thanks.
No, sir.
Their responses are my vote of
sir
thanks.
Is ready. Ramakrishna sir is ready. Just for 1 minute. Just for 1 minute.
No, Ramakrishna. Sir. I would refuse your vote of thanks because what you have given me is already vote of thanks. Even a formality from the part of department to make vote thanks.
One last word, sir. One last word. At least most of the participants may get a board of pass from you, and we wish to have more such talks in future also, sir. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
That boarding pass, but I'll have to prepare each one of them. I have already given boarding pass to RK. No, what is Kavita name? What's her name? RK?
Rekha. I'll change my name for next time.
So Rekha has got boarding pass. That much I can tell you. In the short interview of 1 hour, I have given her the boarding pass. So Shruti, please contact her. She is on the boarding pass for Sakar, right? Right, everyone, thank you so much.
Shruti knows me very well, so.
Oh, very good. Then why did you tell me Shruti never gave me the Rekha's name? She's from Australia. Where are you, Rekha?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I am from Australia. Yeah, I'm seeing you also.
No, I know you well. I know you.
Yeah, from
Your
Australia.
full name was not there. That's why I didn't know. If you're Rekha, then I know which book we are editing, and you're supposed to finish it by end of April. All the details I know. Well, thank you, everyone. Uma, see you again.
Thank you very much.
May the Mother bless you for your wonderful efforts. This is it. Thank you so much. Have a good lunch, but not too much because next session you should not sleep. So koncham eat minimum, not minimum, modicum. Come back alive because my sister is all ready for her bombardment of education And that is, applies to all of you because you are in the Department of Health. Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you, sir.
Reddy.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Rekha. Now I know.
We'll join exactly at 1:30 for the next talk, that is next session by Dr. Chelamai Reddy. Her talk is on the Sri Aurobindo's Integral Yoga, a source of NAP 2020. Please join 5 minutes in advance so that we may not waste our time. And one more announcement is that you will get a certificate after filling up the feedback form. We'll be going to post it in the valedictory session in the chat box. Please make a note of it. You will get a certificate of this attendance certificate of this webinar. Please join for the valedictory session also for the certificate's sake. And be on time at 1:25 p.m.